That's my dog. Hi guys, it's Muddy, and today I am going to be talking to you about tarot. I know that this is kind of out of left field for some of you guys if you don't follow me on Instagram or anything and don't know more about my life than just what you've seen on YouTube, which is all like nomadic van life, travel, that type of thing. As a couple of you guys know, I'm not on the road right now, and so I figured I would talk to you guys about something else that I do, another aspect of myself, and kind of, you know, share this with you guys because I know that there are a lot of people out there that are trying to get into tarot and are interested in tarot card readings. So we're going to talk about that today. Consider this your Tarot 101. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I just tried to film it a second ago and it ended up being so long, so I might break this into two parts. I think it'll maybe make it easier for you guys. So I'm going to talk about tarot, what it is, how to find a deck for yourself, the struggle I went through trying to find a deck that worked for me. Yeah, and then we'll see where we're at in time then, and then depending on where we're at in time, I'll either go into how to read them and the meanings of all the cards, or we'll just make a separate video. So first and foremost, I got into tarot several years ago. One of my New Year's resolutions a couple years ago was to either accept the fact that I'm not a spiritual person and not a religious person and move on with that, or find some type of spirituality and culture that resonated with me that I could practice, because being somewhere in limbo land, I felt like there was some type of void in my life, so I needed to either accept that I wasn't spiritual or find something that I could be spiritual about. So before I could say that I wasn't a spiritual person, I had to explore spirituality. And I came across paganism, and I was raised as a Presbyterian Christian and fell away from that when I was in middle school because of the structure, and I felt like it was exclusionary. And since then my views have changed a bit, and we'll talk about that later, but I wanted to explore a non-Christian religion / spirituality. And I came across Wicca, which is essentially just a reverence for nature. It's like worshiping nature. And I thought, oh my God, this is beautiful. This is great. I do worship nature already. I never thought that there was a spirituality or religion behind it. But let me explore this more. So I did. I dove into researching everything I could about Wicca and other forms of paganism. And then I came across divination, and divination through witchcraft, which I think has a lot of terrible taboos attached to it. There are Christians that I know that use tarot and other methods of divination as a form of getting insight for themselves in their life. And so it's not this big evil thing that a lot of people make it out to be. And I understand where that comes from. People generally fear things that they're not familiar with, but I think it's really important to educate yourself about those things, so that one, you don't fear them, but two, you don't make any misconceptions about people that are different from you or practice things that are different from you. So I could get really into divination, but I'm specifically going to be talking about tarot reading today. One of the misconceptions that people have about tarot is that it's a way to tell your future, which isn't necessarily true. You can ask for insight from the tarot for many different things, many different situations in your life, and the cards can just help you see a situation in a way that maybe you weren't looking at it before. It can give you insight as to how things might play out for you if you don't change anything. So it's never really saying that something is definite. It kind of hands the power back to you and says, okay, this could happen if you don't take any action, but you have the ability to change it. And I just want to say really quickly that there are 1,000 different ways to read tarot. No one way is the right way. People have been doing this for many, many, many years, and people do it in many, many different ways. And it's all about whatever feels right to you. And so I'm just going to be speaking about what has felt right to me, and maybe it'll feel right to you. And if it doesn't, that's fine. Keep doing research. I really encourage you not to just listen to me, but to find your own path and find other people that resonate with you so that you can get the best readings for yourself that you possibly can. So personally, I use tarot when I'm feeling like I'm at a crossroads or I need some type of insight or guidance for the day or about a particular situation. But before we get into how to use the tarot, there's the why, there's the how I came across it, and then let me tell you about finding your actual first deck. So when I first got my first tarot deck, I got the Rider-Waite deck, which is probably one of the most popular decks that exists. I feel like a lot of people start out with that deck. I don't have it anymore because I've given it away. It didn't resonate with me the way that I needed it to. I really encourage you to spend some time looking for a tarot deck. Don't just get the first one that you see. You need to be able to feel something when you look at the images on the cards. The whole point of tarot is being able to interpret meaning out of the cards that you draw and the spreads that you have. So in order to interpret meaning, you need to be able to resonate with the imagery that's presented to you. Personally, I didn't resonate with the Rider-Waite deck because it was very masculine. Okay, this is gonna turn some people off from listening to me, but this was a very personal thing. It does not apply to everyone, and if this isn't important to you, it's not important to you, but this was important to me. There were no brown people in that deck. There were no people of color. It was all white people, which there's nothing wrong with, but for me to be able to get meaning and interpretation on the cards, I needed some type of relation and representation. So I started looking for decks that had more women in it or no people whatsoever. And if there were people, I wanted some people of color. So I came across this deck, which is called the Hermetic Tarot. Looks like this on the outside. And the cards here have a lot of symbolism. There's not a lot of people in here, and the whole deck is black and white, so you can't really tell. The color of them is not important, but there is just a lot of symbolism here. And I thought this deck was beautiful. I really liked it a lot. I liked the size of the cards and how they fit in my hand, but not gonna lie, there was so much symbolism on these cards when I started that I didn't know what to make of it. I was having a hard time getting a clear message because look at the Death card right here. So this is one of the major arcana cards, and there's just so much going on. There's symbols, and I mean, let's go even further. Four of Swords, it's got writing here that I wasn't 100% sure what it meant. The cool thing about this deck is that it does have guidance words at the bottom to help with interpretation, but it still just wasn't for me. There was a lot happening on each card that I just wasn't sure. So I kept looking, I continued my search, and I came across this deck. It's called the Apparitions, a Spirit Speak Tarot deck. And I thought it was beautiful. I got this deck in Joshua Tree, and I loved how they looked. I love how they felt. I think they're beautiful. Each card has its own individual art on it. Gorgeous. There's people of color, there's women, there's really just good things all around. But I noticed eventually that I wasn't getting enough symbolism from that deck. And also the cards are a little large in my hand, so they weren't easy for me to lay out in spreads. So I continued my search, and then I finally came across, this is called the Light Visions deck. And I do want to say that if you guys didn't know, I do have an Etsy where I sell tarot decks that I have collected and come across, and decks that I think could be useful to other people. Here's another one of the decks that I sell on there. This is called the Wildwood Tarot, which I also love. This is a really colorful deck with depictions of nature in it. The symbolism is beautiful. Not a lot of people in this deck, just scenes of nature, and It is really cool, and they all have guidance words on the bottom as well to help with interpretation. So if you're more interested in color and in nature, this could be a really cool deck for you. My Etsy is called Glass Hatch, and I will leave the link in the description below. I want to let you guys know that I am not just saying that I use this deck because I sell it on Etsy or whatever. I sell it on Etsy because I use it. I sell it on Etsy because I feel like it can be really helpful for people, and that it is genuinely a good deck that people could use and get a lot of meaning out of. So I got this deck, and when I opened it and spread all the cards out in a row to look at the imagery on each one, something really beautiful happened. Tarot decks are divided into two groups. There's the major arcana and the minor arcana. And I think I'm gonna have to make another video really getting into the meaning of the cards, but I just want to say this about this deck and why it's so important to choose a deck that resonates with you. When I lined up the 4 suits of the minor arcana, wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, each image on the card flowed seamlessly into the image of the next card in succession. So the ace flowed in with the 2 with the 3, 3, 4, and so on, all the way up into the king in the minor arcana, which ended up creating a massive piece of art once it was all laid out. And the art was telling a story about a person's life, and so each card represented a stage in the journey that the person was on. That helped me so much be able to interpret meaning from the cards even more, because I could remember seeing in my head the entire piece of art and the entire story, and I could say, oh, this is where we were in the storyline, so this means this is what was happening. So that's why this deck became so special to me, is because I was seriously, for the first time, able to interpret it so well and get a lot of meaning out of the cards. And then I came across the Prism deck, which is this deck but in color. I got one in to see if I would like it. I fell absolutely in love with it. I posted it on my Etsy and it sold within 5 minutes. So I only had one of them, so I don't have one to show you right now, but I'm getting a bunch more. I'm gonna have them up on the shop, and I think I'm going to transition from using this deck to the colorized version of it, which is called the Prism deck. All the decks that I sell are $16. I try to keep the prices really low. I paid $50 at a shop for this deck, and I think I paid $25 for the Hermetic Tarot. A lot of decks I see hover anywhere from $30 to $40, but I think tarot should be accessible to every single person, and so I try to keep all my deck prices probably the lowest I've ever seen, actually, in America anyway. So do feel free to check out my shop, because new decks are going to be coming in literally all the time. I'm just going to keep those stocked. So I hope this was a good intro to what tarot is, how I got into it, how you can get into it, what it can do for you, and the proper way to go about finding a deck that suits you. I'm going to make another video, I'm going to film it right after this, about how to actually start interpreting the cards, and maybe get into a couple different spreads that you can do. But I just wanted to get this information out there beforehand. Hope that you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment and let me know if you guys are interested in this type of thing, or if you guys have been practicing tarot, and if there's any piece of advice that you can offer to other beginner readers, just drop that in the comments below for them to read. Again, I just want to say there is no wrong or right way to read tarot. There are a million different ways to do it, and it's all about what resonates with you. If you are another reader, if you are another witch, if you are whatever you may be and you're thinking about passing judgment on me for what I've said in this video, please feel free to leave your opinions, but I do want to create a space to talk about this type of thing where we aren't judging each other and we are open to learning new things. So please keep that in mind as you communicate with me and you communicate with other people. I really want to encourage everyone to help each other along this journey. because it can be so insightful and so helpful to people, and it makes me really happy that I've seen different methods of divination and different types of pagan spiritualities come into like culture recently. There's been a huge movement for incorporating different beliefs into our mainstream culture, and I think that's beautiful. So let's create a space where we can do that and curate our craft really well. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video about how to actually start reading the cards. I hope that by the time that video comes out next week, you guys have maybe found a tarot deck that you can start to work with. And don't worry if it takes you a while. It took me a couple years to get the right deck, so I'm cheering for you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to check out my shop on Etsy. I got new decks there. Goodbye.